Recordings in progress. Good morning, y'all. This is Platoon, Golf Platoon, evenings and weekends. I am your host, Jordan. We're on the last day of Module 2, Web Junk. We are going to do something interesting. We're going to Dockerize an API that we built. Um, we teach Docker in this class. We love Docker. I think it's great. I'm all about making things work on other people's machines. Nothing drives me more insane than something not working on someone else's machine. I can't help you. It works. It should work everywhere, right? What we're going to do is write up a quick API. And as we've learned, API, the simplest way to think about what an API is a server or a file or a serverless file or something like that that you can call and will return something back. Usually something helpful, usually something in the form of JSON that is, utilized, whatever. It's something you can hit. And we ran it locally. Um, we can stand stuff up and hit it locally, but what I want to do is Dockerize it. So I'm going to take a small API, something teeny tiny, uh, that just returns something, right? In this example, we'll be returning time, but we could return a list of my dog's favorite toys. We're going to Dockerize it, slam it into a Docker image, and put it somewhere so that anyone else can run it with no issues. It doesn't exist on my machine. If I turn my machine off, it should still work, and it's just there. This is super cool. This is about bare minimum deployable code, I think. This is the bare minimum, get something, doing something for other people. This is cool. I like this. We'll be using Docker to fully deploy our final projects and individual projects and whatnot. But this is like our first thing that you can use. And in the assignment today, you'll be using each other's stuff you deploy, which is super cool. We're working together already. So we have created these APIs, but we're going to Dockerize them now. For reasons I've mentioned, Chad wrote this out and seems to have very similar feelings as I do. Works on your machine. Great. No one cares about your local machine. Exactly. When it's up in a Docker file, when it's up in an image, when it's in a container, you got everything. You got the container, the code, the dependencies, everything you need to run should work just fine. This is what you're going to do if you're going to Dockerize an application. The process we will follow. We're going to look for a base image, something that we need, the smallest image generally to run what we need to run. We're going to install dependencies and copy the code over. We're going to build it, and we're going to push it. Code's already written. We're at the point of getting it out there. You could even do this step first and then do this, rather this. Copy your code over. You could write your code at this point. I think it's great to have deployable code from the get-go. Maybe I'll do that in our next coding challenge. So let's go over the process of this. This here is an ugly way to set up a server in Python. Bare minimum, bare bones, whatever way. There are plenty of better tools than setting up a socket manually, binding it to these ports, and then listening for it. We can get Flask up and going in less time than it would take to write these 3 lines here. But we don't want to throw too many new things at once. Python. This may not make immediate sense to you, but that's okay. This is, I believe, button time. Hit it and just follow along with me. Because we all care about what this code's doing, let's make sure we understand it. More important socket, that's how we're going to set up our server. Date time, we can guess at what that does. JSON, we need to tell Python to spit out JSON. Python doesn't just do that. It treats everything like dictionaries until you tell it needs to be JSON. Class, init. We don't need to get too into this, but this is the request. When it takes a request, it's going to get some request text. It's going to receive it. It's going to decode it. It's going to make it something readable, hopefully. Parse request is the URI. It's doing some stuff here. All right. I don't want to dig too deep into this, but basically it is taking the request that it receives and making it readable for Python. Um, we're not going to replicate this kind of thing here. That's why I'm not digging into it right now. If you do have deep questions, we can. But the meat and potatoes of this, we probably just going to copy paste this. It's not about what's going on here. It's that this is an API. This is going to receive a request and give a response, and I'm going to put it on Docker. Okay. It builds an HTML response here. Cool. Looks like HTML. Doing a bunch of junk here. Build JSON response. It's going to take current time. This is what it's actually, this is what we're going to be seeing here when we make an API call. It's just going to return some JSON key, current time, value. It's going to stringify the date time now. Turn it to JSON, return it with all of that, right? All this HTML, all this nonsense. It's building a response back. There you go. This is the server we're setting up. It's going to take in a port. It's going to listen on that port. And it's going to respond to these. This is what it gets. This is what it gives back. While true, waiting on a request from this port here. That's about it. That's about it. We're not going to do anything crazy beyond that. Does this just run? Maybe this just runs. So let's build that out. Code server.py. No. All right. Here's our code. Let's see what it does. Waiting on a request. Cool beans. It seems like it's doing something. We probably interact with it. Let's see. Local host. What does it want? 9292. Hey, check that out. I don't have Postman loaded up. That would be a good instructor thing to do. Again, this is a newer Mac Mini. Perl is just going to go hit that URL. That is the same thing. It's a GET request. It defaults to a GET request. That's the same thing as doing this. See there? That's all that is. What's all this extra hoopla? Well, that's the HTML, y'all. It's printing out all this HTML response here. It builds that out. It's not magic. It's right here. HTML head title. An example page. HTML head title. An example page. Check it out. An example page. It's just building out HTML. It's just giving it HTML response. And it's waiting. Every time we hit it, it should be waiting because that's the waiting for a request. It's letting us know, hey, it's running. So if I just hit the URI, notice I hit localhost 9292 because I'm just going to localhost 9292, slash basically. This is what it responds with. Hello world. But look in here. What if I do that? What if I go to /time, huh? Yo, check that out. Reprint. Oh. It's doing some work. What is that work? elif client request, parse request, URI, rip that URI apart. What's going on here? Basically, it's peeling all this URI out, just getting the end of it. If we do hit /time on that, the URI, it does build JSON response, encode, whatever. There it is. This is the JSON response we're building, right? Build JSON response, calls this function here, highlights it for us, builds out the current time, spits it in a JSON, returns it just like that, right? If I refresh this page, I bet you that time changes each time because it's giving us fresh new time. And I understand that's probably a little small. That doesn't need to be that tiny. See that? Any questions about what's going on right now with this? Without digging into the nitty gritty, I'm telling y'all what's important here. set up a socket to listen on this port. Where whatever comes into that port, it don't matter. I bet if we give it something jacked up, it probably doesn't know what to do with it. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't know how to respond to that. Doesn't know how to hit that, you know? I guess if we wanted to, we could build another endpoint, sure. Actually, I'm not gonna go off the rails with that. I've gone off the rails enough today, haven't I, y'all? Um, Basically, those are the two endpoints it has. Very cool beans. Back up a little bit. Uh, all right. So, what does our application need to run? We don't really have any third-party imports. We did this with all just built-in modules with Python. We really don't have anything else crazy going on there. There's an official Python. We can just use that. We can, go follow this bad boy here. Cool, Python. It's got everything. This is the stuff. These are the tags. It's straight up just Python, ready to go out of the box. Should run like it's a shell. So let's set up this Docker file. Docker file is what I don't need two of these anymore. Oh yeah, I did at that point. Docker file is what's going to tell us how to build the image and what we want in it. Docker knows. Also, make sure we got Docker running. Running, yeah, that's Docker. Uh, no, I don't want that help. All right, so go to Docker Hub, give me Python 3.11, run it on Alpine. Sweet. Install dependencies, cop over your application code, right? Step 2. Already did this. We're going to say, hey, create a working directory on this container, call it source. And then I want you to copy over server pi, right? That's into the source. That's all we're doing here. We can just copy paste. I don't think that's too hard to follow, right? Go get an image, make a working directory, got to have one. That's where we're going to be working out of, and copy this server.py into that working directory. I'm just telling you how to run my code on your machine, and I'm giving you a script that's going to do it for you. Work directory will create a directory in the container, assume that's our starting point, yada, yada. We explained all that. Since this is a simple application, there's nothing really else to do. This would be a good time to be installing dependencies, to be saying like, hey, make sure you pip install these things. Oh, hey, make sure you generate that test file. Hey, make sure you populate the database. We don't have to do all that. This is a simple thing. What do we do once it's all there? We're going to run this command. Python server.py. Because, I mean, that's what you need to run this code, right? That's how you run it. That's what I want it to do. And now we're going to build it. So this is going to build it locally. We're going to tag it. And so this username is important. This needs to be if we want to put it in Docker Hub, this username needs to be your username. So it has somewhere to go. It's not just going to make some random dumb, it doesn't want to have a million directories laying around. Like if you want to push something up, it needs to be in your Docker Hub kind of repo here. So this username is not this. It might be, but what that actually is, what it needs to be, what it should be, is what you got here. I'm going to use Jordan at Platoon. I mean, that should be it. Can we get in here? Oh gosh, let me in. I'll figure this out in a second. That should be it. We'll go check it out in a bit. I don't know what I would have set that password to then. Interesting. keep going unless that ain't right. So let's build this. Build, tag it. This is gonna be the name of it, and we're gonna build in this directory here where the Docker file exists. Duh. Jordan at code platoon. Look at all that. That builds super fast. Probably because maybe I, built this earlier when I was testing this lecture. But it's all built up, ready to go. Keep in mind, generally, if you get something like this, make sure Docker's running. It's running on mine. That's why I verified at the beginning. Let's make sure this image is created. So did I create that image? Yeah, sure looks like it. Well, all kinds of crazy things. I even got one from earlier, 3 hours ago, when I was rerunning this on this machine to make sure it worked. Here's this one I did 13 days ago. Python says hi. But here's our newest one. There's this image tag 28 seconds ago. That seems like us. Now we can run it. Docker run. We're going to attach 92.92.92.92. Basically, I'm saying, hey, my port of 92.92 is going to go to its port 92.92 and all that jazz. So again, I need to update this to Jordan at code platoon. Should be running. We can see that with Docker PSA created ports names React game lead status up seconds. So it's running. It's detached from my terminal, but it is running. How could I hit this thing, gang? Any ideas?
Close command or that
Say,
curl.
yeah, I can run that curl command. What am I curling to though?
Um, let's see, curl dash V. And then wouldn't you do localhost, whatever the IP or port? Yeah.
Just like that. Why is this going to work though? Local host. I don't have a terminal running.
So wait, yeah. Aren't you in terminal? Because that's bash, isn't it?
Yeah, but I didn't remember earlier. I had to do this to get it to listen, right? We're giving too much away. I'm not doing that right now. How's this running?
Mm, that I don't know.
Yes, you do. Look at this command. What did that do?
It ran Docker, but
Well, it ran this image, right?
how can I verify that it's running? Because I don't know.
You can, because you could have said, Jordan, you see what's running?
Okay.
Remember when we
So
said this was up? Listen on TCP?
yes,
Check it out. Y'all may not know this or don't remember this. Do we know what 0.0.0.0 is?
that's all the network.
On my host, right? That
Yes.
is anything that's coming through, listen for everything on my host. That is local host. 0.0.0.0 is local host. And it's using that port. So even though we don't see it, it's not running in a terminal. I detached it. I am running that. I am running as my local host that image. I'm running that container as local host somewhere we can't see. We can, I mean, it's right here. We can see it. We probably, I don't want to get to it. It is running, Docker's running that image, that container detached. So it's just kind of spinning. It's a daemon now, kind of. Uh, so we should be able to hit it, right? Just like that, maybe. Oh, what is, yeah, okay. I mean, that's to get a list of all your containers. Yeah, we could remove them that way. Basically, we ran this RM earlier to get rid of any instances of that. So this ought to work, and you were right. You were going the right way, and I cut you off, but you were 100% right. We'll even throw your -v back in there. um, and not hit time and see what happens. Look at that. I mean, that looks right. It looks right. Looks a little different from earlier because we're, not running it locally, but uh, it is up and it's listening on port 9292. It's right there. So some reminders to get a list of all your containers, instances. You can remove them by running, Docker remove. You can remove that container. I don't, this is my only running instance here. I could kill it if I wanted to with that. Oh, I need to stop it. Docker stop. Takes a little while to shut this server down because it's spinning. It's no longer running. I don't think I should be able to hit it. Yeah, I can't hit it no more. Oh, yeah, I'm losing my mind. All this extra output is because we put the V on there. So that's why it looks a little different the first time we ran that. Can't connect to the server because I killed it. It's dead. That makes sense though, right? Let's stand that back up though. Ah, run it. It's there. Should be able to hit it. Looks great. Looks good to me. Spitting back out time. This exists. So I verified I can create this API. I can run it, whatever. Python's good. I can pack it into a container. I can build that container up, put it somewhere, and I can run that container. It's only locally though. I mean, it's just my container. I don't have it somewhere you guys can hit it. But it can be built and it can be run. That's good. Here's the part I'm a little sketchy about. I hope it is cool with me doing all this. Do I need to log in? I should already be logged in, I think. Yeah, we logged in. Docker push should go to Docker, should publish this. Hoping everything runs just right. Looks like it's doing it. Looks like we're pushing these layers up. Give it just a second.
Jordan,
Yes.
question.
Mhm.
What is a real case scenario for this type of application? I'm I'm just thinking about as far as how it's set up now. Of course, it's just local host right now, but I am wondering how something like this would be used to go out to the actual web and talk, because it's, in a sense, it is portable now. And do you see where I'm going with it?
You will wonder no longer because, well, it's up there, right? Um, I'm about to answer your question. So let's see if this is deleted from my machine. I don't think it is. Let's get rid of this. Docker stop. Let's kill this. Uh, come on. No container. Oh, did we? Yeah. Okay. Let's stop this. It's not running. We're gonna kill it off. Uh, I don't know why it takes so long to turn this dang thing off, but there we go. Docker removed. Let's get that Docker. Yes, it's not here. Um, it's gone. we probably, is that gonna do, is this necessary? I don't know if that is. I basically don't really want any instance of this existing on my machine. Yeah, yeah. So we're not even here. Is that getting rid of it? I want to make sure I've actually killed it off. And I think I can do that with cleaning up everything. Oh, it's still around. Maybe a good example of this would be to get a volunteer. Who wants to volunteer to have their terminal shown on a recorded lecture? I'm going to pick somebody in about 8 seconds if nobody volunteers.
Let's go.
Again, Mike?
Nobody spoke up. I waited like 5 seconds.
Get ready to share your screen. Go ahead. I think you should be able to. Share your screen, pull up the terminal.
Or does somebody else want to go? I mean, I don't.
Nope, it's you. Let's go. Just get any old terminal run. We can use VS Code. Just make it clean, clear it out, clear all that. We really just need the terminal. Nothing else is important. You don't have to clear
Oh,
too much
yeah,
of that out.
I don't. Then that's the case. We can do this then.
Yeah, we can do that. So all I want you to do, looking at do you have the lecture pulled up? I can probably just copy paste this to you using the Zoom chat I don't love.
Uh,
So if we do Jordan at code 14. In the Zoom chat, I just added, I just sent you something. I want you to run. Yeah, it's in Zoom chat. I said I don't use Zoom chat, but it's in Zoom chat.
uh,
Can you see it? Can you find it? I'll DM it or not
wait,
DM it.
I got it. I got it. I got it.
So paste that. Don't run it until all the class can see it.
Paste it in the terminal?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right.
So Docker run, remove any instances of this running. We're going to detach it. We're going to use your port 9292 to run in this container's port 9292. And you're going to go to Docker Hub. I haven't shared this with you, right? I didn't meet you before class and say, hey, keep this, right? Like this is the first time this is ever going to touch your machine, correct?
Yes.
All right, run this command. Let's see if it does what it's supposed to do. You do have Docker running, right? Let's start Docker.
I have Doc. I don't know off the top of my head how to start it.
Just search for Docker. You can use that magnifying glass at the top. You can hit Command and spacebar at the same time.
Command spacebar. Okay.
Type the word Docker. Yeah, just hit that. Great. All right, let's try it again. Just run that command once more. Oh, man. Not local. Yeah, we probably need to hit allow on this. What in tarnation?
Uh-huh.
Look at that.
Yes.
Well, shoot, let's run it. Let's do something with it. Can you run that curl command? Do you have the lecture pulled up? Otherwise, I'll just send you the localhost :9292. Hit it.
Um,
Yeah, enter. Look at that. That's my app. I built that. Do it again. Let's see the slash time. Look at that. Open up what am I trying to say? Chrome or Safari or whatever. Let's hit localhost there. Let's see if it exists. Open a new window. And let's go the same exact thing. You don't have to type the word curl or v, but yeah, localhost colon 9292. Let's do it. Hey, that's my app. Does
yeah.
this answer your question that you had earlier?
Yes, it is showing me. So in a nutshell, if I had an API that went out, I see. So it would use it would still be able to go fetch data off the network and give the user whatever data they need because it's yeah. Okay, I got it.
In a way, so keep in mind, this isn't like a server, right? This isn't running anywhere. It's just the image is up. It's there. You had to pull it down and run it yourself. So it's not like deployed perchance, but much like you think about GitHub, right? You want to create a repository, you have to push it up to GitHub. And if I want to see your code, I got to pull it down and run it. But this is Docker. I don't have to pull it down and figure it out and read it. You got everything I need in Docker. You just got to go get it, pull it locally, run it. It's good to go. We could stand this up on a server that runs all the time, and it would just be running it, pulling down that image. Any questions about everybody or from anybody about all this? You can unshare your screen when you're ready.
I have a question
Yeah,
though.
what's up?
Oh wait, oh never mind. I see it. No, because when I was running it, oh that's why, because I have a dash V. Never mind.
Exactly. Yep.
I
Yeah, you're getting
was
all, all
like,
the
over
all the
here.
connection stuff.
Okay. That's a what I'm seeing with this, that's a great way to have a network, a good I mean like a way to have a network of applications running worldwide, communicating through these websites. Yeah, but
Yeah, I mean, you're thinking about it a little. You're thinking about it a little bit further along than what it really is at this point. It's just an image. It just spins up a container. It's just a way for me to put my container up, somewhere it's accessible. It could be worthless. It could be a good, useful container. Who knows? But this is a way to kind of pull it down and run it. Um, there are a lot of different containers published. We can go pull them down, get what we need. The Alpine Python 11 that we use, that's up on Docker Hub. Somebody pushed that up. Probably Mr. Python, maybe, or Mrs. Python, I think. I don't know who's in charge of Python today, but somebody pushed up that image. We pulled it down. We used it right then and there. You could use my image in your image if you wanted. You're like, you know what? Jordan built a great API that tells you what time it is poorly. I'm going to pull his image in, throw it into mine, build it up with my, you do what you want to do with it. But that's it. We built an API and we Dockerized it and set it up. It was pretty easy to do. We should probably do that at the beginning when we're starting our projects, not at the end, because that was a very easy image to build, right? It had 4 lines. Your projects will not have 4 lines. Your projects are going to have to create the database, create the tables in the database, seed the database, install Django, install all the things you've got in Django, pip install all the different modules you've got, create a migration from your Django, migrate from your Django, run Django, create another container. This is the third. Those are two. Bring in JavaScript, bring in Node, install React, build your React image, run all of the different fixtures and whatnot you have in your image, pull in all these different APIs, and then start them all up in succession and connect them the different ways. Your image is going to be a lot more complicated than mine. What if instead of what we're all probably going to do here, which is type all this code up and then at the very end try to create a Docker file to do all this? What you should do, gang, please don't do it for me. I don't care. I already graduated. I make $1 million a year. Not even close. I don't care, but do it for yourselves, gang. Start your projects in a Docker file. Get them to run. Make sure you can make an image out of them. You can Dockerize them. As you add more complexity to your app, add it to the Docker file. Make sure it still can build, right? Add little things at one time so that you don't have to unwind so many different things. You've seen it with technical challenges. I ask you all a simple, Python algorithmic problem, and it gets messy near the bottom. Test every line. Let's do that with a massive project, right? Your projects aren't going to be 30 lines. They're going to be like, God, so many. There are going to be a lot of moving parts. Dockerize your stuff early. As you go, make sure Docker can still build it, right? I cannot tell you how much of a pain you're causing yourselves if you don't Dockerize early, if you don't deploy early. Many of you are going to do this to me, and I'm not going to think any less of you, but it's going to be the day before your project's due, and you're going to say, Jordan, I can't deploy my app. I'm going to say, what? Let me see your Docker file. And it's not working. I just built it yesterday. And then you're going to be stressed out, and I'm not. That's it. Telling you, you are going to say it's not going to be me. It happens a lot.
So just to kind of summarize, a good place to start when you're starting a project, you build your app.js, your style.css, and your index.html, and then you build your Docker file on top of that, and then you make the image, right? You build it, and you kind of build that boilerplate I'm understanding, right? And then as you make changes and you test your Pythons and stuff like that, you think everything's working on your local machine, do the build command again, and it'll update it.
Yes. And then, I mean, that's 99% of it. Maybe just to be that extra 1%, push it up and say, hey, other friend who's working on this, can you run this? Does this work on your machine?
Are there any rules we should have in place on GitHub when we're doing pushes and we have Docker files in there?
I mean, don't push secrets to GitHub. Don't push large images to GitHub. But if you're using a Docker file is not an image, it's just it's like a receipt for an image, right? It's a small file. You're not going to be pushing a bunch of junk. You're not going to push the completed image to GitHub. I don't even know how you do that. Is that what you're thinking? Am I answering your question?
Yeah, I just didn't know how complex we were going to get with our Docker files, so that's why I was asking that.
Your Docker file is always just going to be a file, right? It's as big as a file can get, and it's only as many commands as you need, right? How much instructions do you need to, like my most complicated Docker files I can think of off the top of my head are like 200 lines. And what's 200 lines cost, right? It's nothing. It's the less than the directory it sits in. Yeah.
But if you wait a minute, but it has all the software that is required for it since it is an image, though, right? I mean, it's just wait. It's so if it's just files, you are saying. So if we use pip to install other dependencies, or will it download it?
Not in GitHub, it won't. Your Docker file is just an instruction. It's just instructions for how to build that image, right? You push that Docker file up, that's just instructions. If I were to pull down your GitHub and you had a Docker file and I wanted to build it, I would Docker build and it would go and get everything it needs, right? locally. That's not on GitHub. I don't pull all your stuff down. I don't pull your dependencies down. I pull just like with Python, right? We got a requirements.txt file. That's just a file that tells you what requirements to go get. It's not all that built in, right? I build that on my side, make that, make it big on my end, but what's actually deployed, what actually is up there, small and easy to download and whatnot.
So I'm just trying to clarify the terminology. When I'm working,
Yep.
like let's say with Justin or Mike on a project, we're using Git, we're pushing our changes, pulling our changes and everything. We're working on this code together. Cool. When I want to try to make an image, I'm going to use the build command to Docker. I'm going to make my own image maybe out of that project. So it's all like self-sustained. And then maybe I'll hit
Yep.
up Kim, hey Kim, pull over this Docker file and run it on your machine and tell me what you think.
Well, there's two things, right? She could pull down your image and see if it
What's
can
the
run.
terminology for the pull from Docker? Like it's not
Yeah,
clear to
sorry.
me.
Docker pull, git pull. It's Docker pull. You're pulling down the built. So you've built an image, and if you so choose, you can put it on Docker, right? If you wanted someone to check your Docker file, which is kind of a different thing, maybe it's useful, you can say, hey, go to Git, use my code and run that Docker file, see if you can build an image out of it. That might be a good test. It's not really necessary though. If you know you can build an image and you put that image on, Docker, Docker Hub, you can say, hey, Kim, go pull that down and see if you can run it. So she just Docker run this. It's gonna, Docker run, Sean's image. It's gonna say, well, I don't have that locally. I'm gonna go look on Docker Hub. Oh, there it is. Pull it all down. Try to run it.
And she would need to copy that image over to her Docker account to be able to run it,
She,
or she could do it directly from mine.
what did Mike just do?
Oh yeah, he did run it from yours.
Yeah.
I didn't see the command he types though. It was like Docker
Oh,
run.
yep. So it was Docker run dash rm dash d. Just keep in mind, we'll hammer those in your head right now. He told it what port to run on. Doesn't matter. Well, it might matter because my container is running on 92.92, but we could take that complexity out. And then he wrote Jordan at code platoon / homegrown, which was mine. It knew to go to Docker Hub, find Jordan at code platoon's repository, and go find that.
Got
He didn't
it.
know. He's never seen my code. We've never shared that code. It's the first time he saw it, and guess what? It started up and it ran right out of the box.
Okay, so just to separate like the terminology, we're pushing and pulling to GitHub to work on stuff together, to run other people's Docker images so I could see how they run and work, Docker run, and to push up my own stuff to Docker, it's Docker build, and then whatever that extra.
Then Docker push.
Yeah. Well, there a Docker push or is it
Yeah,
Docker build? There is a
Docker
Docker.
build, Docker build, and then Docker push. Put it up. Yeah, I only ran it one time, so if you missed it, that's what it was. I Docker pushed that image up. You will be doing this in y'all's assignment today. I'm gonna stop recording because I think
So
we're just gonna
Jordan,
get into the weeds on this. Yes, wait. I want to hear your question, then I'm gonna decide whether I keep recording or not. What's up?
okay, so I just realized something as y'all were having this talk. So this, anytime the Docker, if you want to use this and the way that it's being run right now, there has to be network access in order to actually use the image because it has to use your account credentials, I guess.
Yes, correct. No, you have to have a connection with uh with Docker Hub, right? You be logged in to Docker so that it can connect that. Just like with GitHub, right? You need to be able to make a connection with GitHub. You need to authenticate and you need to be able to have access to that thing, right? I could have made that a private image or a private container that no one else could touch, you know. Um,
I
but
just mean as far as to actually run the program itself, you still it needs that network.
uh I don't know if I don't know if I understand your question or if I'm about to go the
So,
wrong direction with it.
okay, so when we ran it, you just said we ran it using your Jordan code platoon at homegrown, right?
Yep.
It's one thing to download it. Of course, you need the network, but when we did the execution of it, we still had to use your account, meaning that in order for it to actually function,
No,
it,
we did not do that.
huh?
You did not need my account to run it. You just
Oh,
needed to know where it existed. And whether if it's
oh,
public, you could see it. If you weren't able to see it, you wouldn't even have gotten that far. Your
okay,
computer looked for an image with that tag locally and then somewhere else.
okay,
That Docker file is going to decide all the permissions for that thing. We can decide what user logs into it. We can decide what security context it has for the other containers. We can decide then and there what level of access it has to your machine. That's all in the Docker file. You should read that Docker file before you ran it. Like I just said, it was like, hey, run this. I could have done some nasty stuff on your computer, right? But you watched me build it, so no worries there. But these are good questions. I'm glad I kept recording this. These are good questions. Um, I will end the lecture here because this is going to be a fun assignment, I think. Let me